Do you folks know who David Goggins is? Right, the guy who used to be a Navy SEAL, the guy who runs a bunch, does crazy marathons, even did some of his earlier marathons without any training, broke how many bones in his feet? Right, the guy who went from being extremely overweight to looking the way he does now. If you don't know who David Goggins is, just Google him. Read a short paragraph and you'll learn everything there is to know about this guy. Here's why we're talking about David Goggins in relation to mental health. Folks, if you want to learn something, there's two common approaches. One of them is you crack open a textbook, or maybe you attend a lecture, and you listen to theories and philosophies and principles about life and how to do certain things and how not to do certain things, okay? That's one way. Another way to learn is what we call experiential learning. And experiential learning is a fancy word that essentially means learning through experience, all right? If I want to talk to you about cold water, and about the benefits of cold showers, I can say, well, look, folks, I was looking at a peer-reviewed article, and this peer-reviewed article found that we've got the sample size of 200 people, and half of them took cold showers every morning, and half of them didn't. And what we found at the end was, blah, 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 blah. Here are the benefits of cold water showers, which I could say. Or I could say, look, this is the life that I've lived, sample size of 1. This was my life before cold showers. This is my life after cold showers. I've been there. I've done that. Let me talk to you about my own personal experience. Now, it's not to say necessarily one is better than the other, but I've always thought it was more interesting when the researcher himself was a part of the sample. When you've done something yourself. Right? It's always kind of weird, right? If I come on here and let's say I make a bunch of videos about marriage and stuff, and maybe I have, but I'm not married. Now that doesn't mean I can't ever speak about the topic. I can still provide you the literature in regards to social psychology and relationships, but it would also only enhance it if I was married, right? It's kind of like going to a counselor for marriage advice and then finding out they've been divorced twice. I bet you they still know what they're talking about, but it just sits weird with you. Folks, David Goggins is a hard man. All right? I hope that if you're listening to this, you already know who he is. You know the way that he lives in the suffering. You know the way that he embraces it. He calls it taking souls. This is a man who inhales the cold and exhales fire. I would describe him as resilient, ambitious, hardworking, driven. I would not describe him as special. And the reason I would not describe him as special is he himself would come out and tell you that he's an ordinary guy. Or excuse me, at the very least, he used to be an ordinary guy. Until he realized he didn't want to be. Until he realized he had the potential to be something greater. To strive for something greater. And the reason why this is so powerful in terms of a lesson for mental health is there's a lot of concepts that Goggins talks about, but he talks about without name dropping them the way they are in the literature. I would make an argument that a lot of what he talks about is emotional regulation, is growth mindset, self-efficacy, behavioral activation. Now, he might not say those individual things, but if you were to read them in a research article or if you were to Google the terms, these are the things that he's indirectly talking about. When I watched a video of him, his wife is on the shore taking a video of David Goggins, and he has his hands tied and his feet tied, and he's in the water swimming, which is very dangerous, by the way. Please do not do that on your own. Like, regular people don't do stuff like this. Regular people don't go on a 100-mile marathon back to back to back, like whatever, a month apart, if that even. Regular people don't do that. So David Goggins says, look, I want to be an uncommon man amongst uncommon men. If you want to be uncommon amongst the people around you, you go do something. Let's say you become a police officer, right? Because you want to be uncommon. Guess what? Now that you're a police officer, you've become common. Everyone's a police officer around you. So now, you got to raise the bar. Well, being a police officer isn't enough anymore. Now I have to be like a, whatever, the supervisor, or the general, or the person who does like something. I gotta be uncommon against uncommon men. And it's this belief that with time and with effort, I can get better and I can improve. I am not a special person, but I can do these things to fortify my mind, to strengthen my mind, so that I can achieve the results that I desire. It's got nothing to do with magic. I'm cautious when I use words like manifestation. Look, when I was 16, one of my English teachers looked at me once, Mr. Chupoy, I remember it very well. And we were talking about grammar. This had nothing to do here nor there. But he said, listen, be careful what you tell yourself. If you tell yourself, I can't do this, guys like me can't do stuff like this, if you really believe things like that in your head, you draw a line in the sand and you won't dare to even try. Regardless of if that thought is a fact or if it's not. And that might sway anywhere from, can I jump off an 8-story building and live? To, a guy like me doesn't have the work ethic to make it to med school. He said, be careful what you tell yourself. And you know, we have all this talk in the media and all these self-help books talking about positive self-affirmations. I can do it. I am good enough. This and that. Look, the basis of it is this. Self-efficacy is extremely important. Self-efficacy means, what do you believe you are capable of? Where do you think your ceiling is? And if you think to yourself, if I go to work, I'm going to be too tired to go to the gym. Therefore, I won't do it. My body needs to rest. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to rest. And when we do that, we're not pushing our boundaries. We're not pushing ourselves forward to see what we can be truly capable of. Maybe you can work out every single day before or after work. But because you've never tried it, but because you have a thought that says, look, when I go to work, I'm tired. I can't imagine working out afterwards. My body won't be able to handle it. You're never going to try. So when we look at someone like David Goggins, and I'm sure there's other people out there, we want to be really, really careful that we consider our upbringing. Maybe we didn't have the best upbringing with our parents, with our friends, in our neighborhoods, financially. But that doesn't mean that we can't change. Our history does not guarantee our future. It influences it, absolutely, without a doubt. Things like trauma and a plethora of other factors. But just because you lived a certain way does not mean you have to continue living that certain way until the day you die. And what we realize with someone like David Goggins, if you've heard of the word behavioral activation, it's a fancy word that just means this. There's a belief, and I've talked about this actually years ago in some of my earlier videos. A lot of people say, I don't feel too good right now, so I'm going to lie on the couch. And when I start to feel better, then I'll go out for that run. Then I'll go see my friend. Then I'll hit the gym. Behavioral activation flips that formula on its head and goes, no, no, no. If you lie down on the couch, you're going to feel worse. And it's so strange. Follow me here, folks. Have you ever felt tired? And then you go lie down, and then you feel more tired? Now, follow me here. Have you ever felt tired? And maybe you didn't want to leave the house, but you did. You went out for a walk. Maybe you didn't want to see your friends, but you did. You still went out. And you felt more energized 5-10 minutes after talking to your friend? Or 5-10 minutes into the workout? Think about how strange that is. People say, listen to your gut. Listen to your intuition. If you're tired, then don't do it. And sometimes thoughts can be deceiving. And if you've seen one of my previous videos that I did not too long ago, I talked about one of the cognitive distortions is called emotional reasoning, or something along those lines. And that means if I feel something, it means it's true. Meaning, if I'm angry at you, that means you must deserve it. Like, I have every right to be angry. Folks, there are some things that you're angry about that are a little bit silly. That you may be unnecessarily being angry. You're going over the top when it's not necessary. There are certain times where you might feel tired, and that feeling will say, don't do what you're about to do. Hey, it's Monday morning. You feel tired. That means you shouldn't go to work, right? Friday after work, you feel tired. Maybe you shouldn't go out with your buddies tonight. So we have to be careful, because we have these two voices. One that says, oh, listen to your feelings. Accept your feelings. Listen to them. And this other one that goes, acknowledge the feeling. But just because you feel it does not mean it's true. Just because you feel it does not mean it's true. And this is not gaslighting. This is not denying or suppressing our feelings. Look, we listen to them and we attempt I was talking to a counselor once, and he said, sometimes, Daniel, individuals, when they're in a bad place in life, it's like you take both hands and you put them in front of your face. And no matter what happens in life, they can't see the trees, they can't see the cars, they can't see anything else around them because they're focused on their palms. And if we can get an individual to bring their hands away from their face, then they can see the trees and they can see the light, they can see the cars, they can see the dogs passing by. And if we can learn to observe our thoughts, not to deny them, but just to observe them, not to judge them, but just to observe them, we could be a lot more careful in directing our actions. You wake up Monday morning to go to school or to go to work. You feel tired. And what do you do about that? Do you think to yourself, well, I feel tired. That means I'm not going to go to work today. Really? Okay. Well, let's say that's the case. And then you think to yourself, well, you know what? I still feel tired. I'm not going to go to the gym either. Okay, so now you're not going to work, you're not going to the gym. Hey, you know what? I feel tired. I don't even want to brush my teeth. Like, I don't have it in me to walk over there, brush my teeth for 2 minutes and to floss. Folks, what kind of a life is this? What are we doing? And what we want to be very, very, very careful of is when we have these thoughts, when we have these feelings, is when I say things like, observe our thoughts non-judgmentally, it would be to take a step back and go, okay, I feel really comfortable in bed. The pillow feels so nice. This feels so relaxing to lie here, or to lie on the couch, or to play video games, or to watch TV for 3 hours. I have a thought that says, I want to do this for the next 5 or 6 hours. That's not a fact. I'm not saying I should. I'm not saying I'm going to. I have a thought that says I should stay here, okay? Now I have another thought that says, this is what I need to do. I know this is what I feel like. I feel tired. I feel sluggish. I have some brain fog. And a thought says, I should just hang out here. But another thought is telling me, what do I need to do? Well, I need to buy groceries today because I haven't gotten them in a while. And I need to do laundry today. And I need to reach out to my friend who I've told I'm going to reach out to. And you begin to do things even though you don't feel like doing them. A person suffering from depressive symptoms goes to their counselor. And they say, look, I'm not doing too well. I don't feel great. I feel tired all the time. I'm kind of aimless. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm not happy with my job. And the counselor says, okay, well, what do you do in a day? Tell me about it. And generally, people who are feeling pretty depressed, it's uncommon for them to be exercising every single day. Like, it'd be strange if someone was like, yeah, like, I'm really tired and I'm not happy in life. By the way, I had broccoli and salmon the other day before I hung out with my friends. And then we went out on this hike and then we came back home and I watched this movie and I had a nice hot shower. They generally aren't saying that, right? So if we find that there's a pattern between someone who's saying, look, I don't feel too great. By the way, I haven't seen my friends in 2 weeks. I rarely change my clothes. I haven't done laundry in a while. I haven't exercised. One of the possible suggestions may be to engage in a form of exercise that could be as pleasant as possible or as easy as possible. That might be biking, that might be going weightlifting, that might be going out on a run, whatever it is. Now, if the person looks at the counselor and says, yeah, I don't feel like doing it, the counselor might turn around and say, I understand. I didn't ask you about your feelings. Or, respectfully, I don't care how you feel when it comes to exercise. And I don't want to say like you're going to exercise because there's a level of autonomy and the individual has to choose to exercise. But folks, you come to this place in life where they say, look, I hear what you're saying. It sounds like you feel frustrated, tired, overwhelmed. So the fact that I'm suggesting you to go exercise sounds really strange. I'm telling you I feel tired and you're saying I should go lift weights. What's going on here? And what we understand for a lot of people, obviously there are exceptions, when we feel tired and then we go and do something hard, it makes us feel better. And it's so strange. It's so weird. Because when the mind says, I'm scared, or I'm tired, or I don't want to go further, You would get more out of it. You would get a greater sense of accomplishment if you did go further, if you did take another step. Now, within reason, if you've been working out 6 days a week and you're really tired and it's the 7th day, don't overdo it. Don't burn yourself out. What I'm saying is, don't underestimate your capacity for excellence. Do not underestimate what you can do, how hard you can work, how hard you can push yourself. What are you truly capable of? And it's entirely possible that you don't even know. How far can you run? Like really? Like how far can you jog? And then you think, well, Daniel, I once jogged for 5 kilometers and I walked. Like, no. I didn't say how far have you. I said, how far can you? How far is it humanly possible for you and your body to jog while it's still safe? Okay, I'm not saying jog in the blazing heat, bare feet, and get heat stroke. I mean safely, or to minimize injuries as much as possible, and you're drinking more, you're hydrated. How long can you jog for? You don't even know. And I don't blame you because I don't even know. This is a conscious thing that we have to think about. Like, what is the most amount of weights that I can lift? What am I capable of doing? And what's really, really fascinating is, especially in adolescence, we kind of form this identity of who we are. Oh, okay, I'm this person. I'm funny, or I'm likable or not likable. I don't have good social skills. And then when we create these beliefs, we kind of orchestrate our lives and we interact with the environment in ways that are congruent with our beliefs. So if I believe that I'm not a likable guy, I'm not going to go to the party and start talking to everybody, right? I'm going to a corner. I'm going to be safe somewhere. I'm going to try to keep my mouth shut because I don't want people to find out how much of a loser I am. So all of a sudden, when you go out on a run, like if you've run 5 kilometers and that's your most, let's say jogged, and all of a sudden with training over time, you start doing 10. 10 is a lot, folks. 10 kilometers or 10 miles is a lot. And when I say that, I'm not talking about athletes. I'm talking about a regular person who doesn't run, or maybe runs 1, 2, 3 kilometers or miles. To 10 miles is a lot. And all of a sudden, what have you just done? You've changed who you are. Look, I talked about this a while back. If you cheat on your partner, does that make you a cheater? And maybe you're thinking, yes, Daniel, of course. Or maybe if someone's trying to save face, they go, no, I'm a good person who made a mistake. Okay, I'm not a bad guy. I'm a good guy who made a mistake, who slipped up, who gave into an impulse. Okay? What happens if it happens multiple times? What does that make you now? Are you still a good guy who keeps making mistakes? Or maybe you're not as good as you thought you were. There's an MMA fighter by the name of John Jones. And unfortunately, he's one of the greatest MMA fighters I've ever seen. One of the stories of his career has been, first of all, exceptional at his craft. And yet a man who just makes numerous personal mistakes, one after the other. And a fellow fighter by the name of Daniel Cormier once commented on this. He goes, at some point with John, it's not about a person who keeps making mistakes. After mistake number 8, that's you. That's not a slip. That's not a good guy who slipped up. That's you. You're that kind of guy. You are unpredictable. And you do make bad decisions. And you do have bad judgment. And that's not to throw slight on him. But I say that to further elaborate on this point of how we make these beliefs. And based on our actions, it changes the way other people see us. And it changes the way we see ourselves. You can't think you're an unlikable loser if you go to parties and you keep making people laugh. It's incongruent. If I'm an unlikable loser, I can't have people laughing at my jokes, telling me what a great guy I am, and inviting me to future parties. Can we all agree on that? Is that fair? So the question becomes, how far can we push ourselves? What more can you do? And I want you to apply this kind of idea of behavioral activation in any aspect of your life. Can you take a cold shower? The question is not should you. The question is not would you like to. The question is not would it feel nice to. Could you? Are you able to? And the question for the vast majority of people is yes. So the question becomes, for how long? Can you take a cold shower for 15 seconds? Can you do it for 30 seconds? Can you do it for 45 seconds? What happens when the guy who's never taken a cold shower before is taking a 3-minute cold shower 3 days a week? That's 9 minutes of cold showers. If you proved yourself wrong once, what does that say about your entire life and what else you can prove yourself wrong about? We are stronger than we think we are, but maybe out of safety, out of caution, maybe out of, I'm hesitant to use the word laziness, we're afraid to push ourselves that extra mile. Because what if we get hurt? Because I'm scared, because I've never done it before. And if we can use that sort of an idea of resilience, and we can think about self-efficacy, what we are capable of, and if we can use growth mindset, this idea that if I put an effort, I believe I can get better over time. It's not that, oh, my brain is just not made for math. Maybe I have that belief, and because I have that belief, I never practice math, and because I don't practice math, my math sucks. But if I thought, oh, with practice, I can make almost anything at least a little bit better, whether it be video games, whether it be math, whether it be basketball, whether it be poetry, whether it be singing, you name it. So I want you to think about resiliency. I want you to think about growth mindset. I want you to think about self-efficacy. I want you to think about behavioral activation. And if you ever listen to anything by David Goggins or you read his book, I want you to know that there is evidence-based research which backs up a lot of the things that he says indirectly. Folks, it's not about the run. It's not about the shower. It's not about losing weight. If you're thinking about that, you're missing the point. What this talk is about, what David Goggins is about, but this whole idea, everything I've been talking about for the last more than 15 minutes, is about fortifying your mind. It's about strengthening your mind. Why? You can lose weight and gain weight. You can take a cold shower today, you can take a warm shower tomorrow. That stuff doesn't matter. It's about strengthening your mind so much so that the next time when you're in a situation at work or at school or in a relationship where you're thinking, I don't think I can do this, you sit back and you go, wait a minute, let me take a step back. I'm going to observe this thought. I had a thought that said, I can't do this. Okay, that's a thought that I had. Okay, I'm having another thought that says, I'm going to try. I don't feel comfortable, but I'm going to try. That's another thought that I have. These are just thoughts. These are not facts. These are not labels. This is not a ingrained fact of life. And if you can do this, it will change your life. And I mean that sincerely. I promise you, because all of a sudden the guy who thinks he's not smart enough to make it to the top starts working at as a bank teller at a bank and starts working his way up. Because he believes if he shows up early, if he leaves late, if he gives it his all, if his boss isn't corrupt, and he puts in the time and the hours, he can improve. And he can get a promotion, and he can get a raise. And all of a sudden, the cycle continues. When we do things that we were not aware that we could do, when we engage in activities that we once thought to be impossible, it changes the way we see ourselves. And when our identity changes, we literally become different people. And when we become different people, we will interact with the world differently. Good people, thank you very much for listening. I hope you take what I've said and you take it to heart. And if you can apply it to one thing in your day, and that might be waking up a little bit earlier so you can make yourself breakfast. That might be making sure to brush your teeth twice every day and floss. That might be to put on sunscreen when you go out. Whatever it is. When you have a feeling that says, I don't feel like doing it, or I want to procrastinate, just sit back and think, that's just a thought. And just because I feel it doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% true. And there's a lot of times you won't feel like doing something, and you're going to do it anyway. And when you do, applaud yourself on the back. And guess what? The next day, you're going to do it again and again and again. Why? Because in the words of David Goggins, embrace the suffering. There is no finish line.